Hi, my name is Gwenna Hunter, the founder of Vegans of LA Food Bank, soon to be Planetary Unity. Join us in May of 2026. This is a call to action for all of us to learn how to protect the mother and babies of all species and their homes.
Welcome, everyone. Today I have Gwenna Hunter of the Vegans of LA and the Vegan Food Bank of LA. Thank you, Gwenna, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tammy.
Well, we were talking pretty recently, and there were some beautiful stories that you told. And part of the narrative of becoming a person that really connects with all beings and realizing that we're all one. We almost need to embody what it would be like to be an animal. I had that experience in a journey with a bear, a mother bear who was protecting her cub, and it was very powerful. And I know that you had one as well. And so, can you start by sharing your story about embodying a cow?
Yes.
Hmm.
This is when I was vegetarian, but not for any ethical reasons. And this happened in February 2016. And I had a dream. And in the dream, I'm flying through the sky and I look down, I see this really beautiful, bright green pasture. And there was this cow, and she was absolutely gorgeous, supermodel cow. And when we looked at each other, something froze and our eyes locked. And these two, what looked like tunnels, but they look more like wormholes, opened up on each side. And I went through one of them. And I always wonder if she went through the other. But I went through the wormhole. And when I did, I merged consciousness with the cow, and I was the cow. And I lived an entire lifetime. I don't know if it was in seconds or minutes, but I experienced an entire lifetime as a cow. I gave birth, I had children, I made it, I had community. And most importantly, my capacity for love was stronger than the human version of me. And when I came out of the dream, I was crying uncontrollably because I'm like, oh my God, cows love their children and we eat them. And I was just completely stunned by what I had experienced. And so, even though I am a believer in consciousness, universe, supernatural experiences, I always still make way for a little bit of skepticism just to create a little bit of balance and make sure, no mental illness is activating in me because that was really strong. So I'm like, well, maybe I ate something really weird last night to bring this on. Maybe, and I'm just, coming up with all these different scenarios. And so I just said, look, God, universe, if I really experience what I experienced, please give me one more sign. I'm a little hard headed, so I needed to be strong. Like, give me one more sign. And while I'm fully awake as Gwenna, laying in my bed, but sitting up, after I had made that statement, all of a sudden, this really warm sensation appeared right over my heart. And it was almost tangible, but it had a tingle and a beauty to the warmth. Like it was alive, and it felt like a heater, but it was loving, and something telepathically said, "Put your hands on it." And so when I put my hand in that space, I was enveloped in basically what I consider to be paralyzed with complete peace. It was quiet. It was unconditional. It was loving. There were no adverse thoughts. There was no negativity. It was just pure existence. And it was peaceful and it felt so good. I could have died. And if someone would have came and said, You want to come and live in this, or do you want to stay on Earth and finish? I'd be like, nope, I'm done with the Earth thing. I wanted to go where that feeling came from because it felt so good. And it may have lasted for seconds. I have no idea because it was like in that experience, even with the dream, there was no measurement or even consideration of time. And so after I came out of it, I was still slightly enveloped in what felt like this tingly, warm love, like all over my body. And I felt like the cow gave me a piece of her to let me know, yeah, this is real. So I'm sitting there contemplating. I'm like, okay, so if cows love, that means chickens love and pigs love and ducks love. And oh my God, this is a horror movie. We're eating bodies of our friends, of our family members. And then I'm thinking, who's running this program? Who's doing the, the marketing campaign for Planet Earth that's convincing us to do this? And I mean, my mind was so blown. I was just, because it was literally an awakening. And so I'm just like contemplating all this information. I'm just like, oh my God. Because even though I wasn't eating the flesh of animals, I didn't care if anyone else did. For me, it was just a dietary choice because I didn't have bad cramps anymore. My body was had started rejecting cow meat when I was like 23. So from 23, I stopped eating pigs and cows, but it had nothing to do with compassion. But that was the seed that was planted. That was just the whole curriculum being laid out for me. And, you know, when you have these type of experiences, synchronicities happen. So I would say sometime that week, I'm scrolling on Facebook and I see this video by Erin Janis called Dairy is Effing Scary. And it's a 5-minute video where she does it in a very sarcastic, almost slightly humorous way, but very serious. It's one of the most brilliant videos out there. And she shows you how we actually get our factory farm milk from animals. And I'm watching this and I'm horrified because I had no idea as a 40-something-year-old woman thinking that you still sit on the, stoop and milk the cow and milk her udders. And she says, ooh, because that's what she's programmed to do. And I'm seeing her have these metal machines hooked up to her body. I didn't know that they're pregnant for, nearly 9 months, just like human mothers. And I see the man carrying her child away in a cart and her chasing after her child. And I'm like, oh my God, the awareness. And I'm seeing all this now, knowing that they have the same consciousness and capacity of love for us. And I'm watching this. I'm like, wait a minute. This is the exact same blueprint that was used for slavery. You can do what you want with their children, do what you want with their bodies. They were put here for you. They don't feel pain the same. Doing what you want with their reproductive systems, their bodies, taking advantage of them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the same exact blueprint. It's just being done on animals. So as you can imagine, my chakras were just blown out of my entire body because I'm like, I can't believe I never questioned this. I can't believe I went along with the script my entire life and never once questioned if an animal has the capacity to love. And so from that moment on, I knew that I was destined. There was no question. I'm like, I'm supposed to be a part of this. I got to figure out how to get into this community, get my little hands on something and start volunteering and figure out where I fit. So yeah.
Beautiful, Gwenna. That's such a powerful, powerful story. And you've taken that part of you where you fit in your community and brought it into the first vegan food bank in LA. Can you share a little bit about that? And I know it's going to be renamed right away, so maybe you can do a little shout out. But what I would like you to share is how this has supported the mama and babies of the humans and also the animals in your food bank. It's a place where people come, families come, it sounds like predominantly, and all the animals' lives that are spared because there is actually a vegan food bank in LA.
Yeah, LA's first vegan food bank, and so far the only one. Hopefully there'll be more. But what I forgot to share with you before is that it used to be a meat market. Yep, it used to be a meat, and I didn't plan. I'm like, wow, the plot just thickens, and I didn't find that out until maybe a few months in, because inside you see a picture, a little caricature picture of a pig, and it's like a meat market type. I'm like, oh, and I found out the story. It used to be a meat market years ago. Um, so the way this came about, I had been working for another nonprofit organization, Vegan Outreach, and it was during the pandemic, we started moving towards doing food outreach programs with different communities. So I was in charge of Los Angeles. And so I worked with different organizations. And I found that without even being preachy or giving talks or speeches, just providing fresh produce and vegetables, people were coming back and reporting how good they felt because they got to try something that they would have never bought with their own money. So people are trying to think, like, I remember we first gave out kale and people are like, what is this? I'm like, you never heard of kale? But I remember when I never heard of kale either. So I had to humble myself. But things like Swiss chard, kale, things that people wouldn't normally buy. So they started cooking with these items. And then we started I remember we introduced some Beyond Meat sausages. And one lady came back and she was like, I didn't do ham hocks this time. I did the Beyond sausage. It was so delicious. And people were saying that they were starting to feel better. Their blood pressure was being lowered. They were walking more and they were just having these amazing effects. And again, we weren't preaching or saying anything. We were just giving out the produce and the products and also hot meals. So I started getting nudged by the universe. It's time to go out on your own and do your own thing. And then the idea of a food bank came to mind. And I remember I was so overwhelmed by what I needed to have in order to start a food bank. And mind you, I probably had maybe $400 in my bank account. And so I'm like, okay, I need trucks or a truck. I need somebody that's going to deliver the stuff. I need a warehouse, a physical location. I need freezers, refrigerators, a staff, all these things. And I remember having a dream that I was somewhere and we were sorting through produce and Barack Obama was in the dream. And I'm looking, I'm like, Barack, what are you, but like, it was like, what are you doing here? But it wasn't a shock. It was just like, oh, hey, what you doing here? And he rolled up his sleeve and he said, no matter what, stay the course. And I was like, I will. And I remember just having at the time, just feeling so anxious because I kept inquiring about things and it was just starting to overwhelm me. And so I released it and talked to the universe. And I said, look, if I'm the one that's supposed to put this together, I need you to help me. And I need this to fall into my lap. I need it to land gently and softly, but powerfully and loudly, but still gently so that I know that this is it. I said, because I'm getting too stressed out and I'm ready to throw in the towel. And I would say maybe within a week or two, I ended up getting a message from a young lady that I knew that's part of Black Lives Matter. And she's like, hey, can you meet with this pastor who's looking to do a program at USC? And he kind of basically wanted to pick my brain, which made me really annoyed. But something said, take this meeting. You better show up to this meeting. And I'm like, okay. So I go to the meeting and I meet him and we just hit it off. And I tell him about my cow dream and he's just fascinated. And we just had the best time talking. And so I'm, giving him the information that he's looking for. And at the end of the conversation, when we're wrapping up, he tells me that he has a food bank. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful because that's what I want to start. I want to start a all vegan food bank. I said, but it's too much. I'm like, trucks, freezers, fridges. And he's like, well, instead of starting from scratch, why don't you just take over part of mine? I already have freezers, refrigerators. I have a delivery person. Everything I said I needed, he said it out of his mouth. And it was just like this angelic, oh, that just came over. And I was like, like it literally landed gently in my lap. And ever since then, since April of 2022, we've been going.
It's such a beautiful story, you know, because it is about release. I remember reading years ago um, the seven spiritual laws of success, and one of them was the law of least effort. And it doesn't mean we don't have to work towards what we need, but at times when we know on some level we're supposed to be where we are, but it's affecting our well-being, then we can let God take over. And I love your deep faith. I love your faith, and we all love your beauty and your presence and your joy. You know, Gabriel Cousins would call it non-causal joy, just the joy of being alive and knowing that you're a divine spark of God and that you have these unique gifts to bring to the world. So thank you for being that example of someone shining their light in such a bright way. Thank you, Gwenna.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here.